Welcome back to part two of our discussion on abortion as it relates to Kathleen Walsh's interview with her mother. I hope you enjoy. Mother and shoot her in the gut, and they both died. It would be a double homicide, so, that doesn't make
Oh,
sense,
that
but
that gets me. That gets me
yeah,
so much.
it doesn't make any
I
sense, but
despise that.
what about this does?
But
All right,
better yet,
so,
what if that woman is on the way to an abortion? You kill her on the way to her abortion, and you get charged with double homicide. Well, it was about to be dead anyways.
yeah, I wonder if you could use that as a legal defense.
No,
I don't want to know. I don't want any case law on this. I'm just curious. Um, Okay, moving on because we still have a lot of this to go. The mother, so Kathleen said, no, it's not imaginary. It's a physical being, but it's a theoretical life and maybe a what might be, and it doesn't matter as much as the actual life. Again, that makes absolutely no sense. The mother says it is an actual life. You're still pumping blood. Your heart is beating. Sounds like a life to me. And then she puts in another note here. Says, per Dr. Nisha Verma, an OBGYN speaking to NPR, the fetal heartbeat detected at 6 weeks gestation is a grouping of cells that are initiating some electrical activity. It's in no way detecting a functional cardiovascular system or a functional heart. And how cruel do you have to be playing semantics with the baby's life? You're playing semantics with the baby's life. That's all
well,
it
you can
is.
use those same. You
That
can use that
all
same
that's all it
argument.
is. You are playing semantics to make yourself feel better about taking a baby's life.
Well, I mean, you can use that same argument. What about COVID patients that barely have any lung function, and they're on respirators and they're fighting for their life, and
Should we
it's
stick
like,
a
oh,
fork
well,
in
their
their
lungs.
head?
I mean, their lungs aren't going to be working. They can't breathe on their own. If it wasn't for this ventilator, they'd be dead. Oh, let's just shoot them in the head. Let's just shoot them. Put them out of
Mm-hmm.
misery. We don't use that same method for adults. What happens whenever somebody has Alzheimer's and they remember nothing? Their brain's almost
They're
nothing because
walking
they
vegetables.
forgot it all.
I hate to say it. My
Why not
granddad,
just
my
why not
granddad's
get rid
like
of
this,
them?
so I can say that.
But I mean, it's just like what stops that from other aspects of life? What stops you from doing that with COVID patients? What about people that get in car accidents that are on the verge of death? They get life flighted. Why not just say the time and they're almost dead anyways? Why not just put them out of their misery? Why make them go through other stuff when they're almost dead? They can't hardly breathe. They barely got a heartbeat. Why try all that stuff? That they're almost dead
Human
there
life is
anyways.
intrinsically valuable. All right, moving on. Kathleen then utters this truly heartbreaking line, where she says, "I exist because you chose for me to exist. You decided that you wanted me." And that first sentence, the "I exist because you chose for me to exist," is where you should focus. The assumption here is that aborted babies are not wanted by their human mothers, and because their human mothers don't want them, the baby doesn't have the value to exist, which is a very bleak view on human existence and also very, very wrong. But that is the logical, if you take that to a logical, its logical endpoint, that is what she's saying. So I try not to only have a religious and Christian answer. I'm about to go into the weeds a little bit, Marcus. So if you want to sit back and relax, I'm about to go into the weeds for a second. But it has value. So I try not to only have a religious and Christian answer for things that I talk about on here. And so I'll try to have some sort of answer for this based on some sort of secularism as well. But, and that's not because I don't think that the Bible alone is good enough to have faith. It's just because I believe having the Bible plus good sound reasoning is even more powerful. But explaining why this is bad through only secular means is actually impossible. So the final destination of secularism is nihilism, which is the belief that nothing matters. It's only a logical endpoint. If there is no God of any sort, there is no meaning to all of this, and therefore killing your baby isn't bad. The closest argument I could think of, and I certainly don't believe in it, is evolution, where the current generation only exists to produce the next generation, which would mean abortion would be bad. But even then, why does it matter? Because the human race is not going to go on indefinitely. There's nothing happens. There's still the heat death of the universe, and humans aren't going to exist past that point. It doesn't matter. So yeah, the reason it is bad is because the inherent we have at being made in God's own image. Coincidentally, that includes Jesus at conception and just a blob of cells. So when she says it's just a blob of cells at the first few weeks of gestation, Well, if we believe that Jesus lived life as a human, he started as a zygote, became a blob of cells that formed into a baby within the womb and grew within the womb and went through all these same stages. And so we were still in the image of God. Boom. Anyways, off of that tangent. And also the mom had a really good response. Do you have anything to say about that before I go on, Marcus?
Technically, we are still a blob of cells, but we're a bunch of blobs of cells.
That is true. In its broadest definition, we are a blob of cells. All right, off of that tangent.
Every part of us.
So the mom had a pretty good response to that, by the way. She said, before I decided you existed, you still existed. If I ended that existence, I would have ended it, but I would have ended an existence. And she is absolutely right. Of course, Kathleen's response is also heartbreaking. She says, but it wasn't me. And her mom, of course, is also right when she says, of course it was you. Every part of you, every cell was there. Every part of you was there. And then Kathleen starts to deflect by saying every cell wasn't there. But that's not a very good response either. Because at 5 years old, I was not the 6'5", 212-pound person I am now, and I had significantly less cells. Also, and I say this because I know what she's getting at, my brain wasn't fully developed at 5 years old. My skeletal system had much more cartilage. I was much less different than I am. I was much different than I am to today. But I still had intrinsic human value then, and I had it in the womb too, and I'll have it when I'm 70 and probably going out of my mind dealing with people like this. Oh. You got anything to that?
Well, if that's her viewpoint, then that's a viewpoint you want to go off of. At what point does it begin to not be you? You know, at what point is it fully developed? What point is it set? You know, like you said, at 5, you're not the same person you are now. You're not fully developed.
Absolutely not.
You know,
but you still don't have any less intrinsic value.
What does that mean? That you can have a toddler and they're crying and they fuss a lot and you just tired of dealing with them. So I mean, well, they're not fully developed yet.
Yeah, just chuck them out the window off of your 5-story balcony. No, we can't do that. But that's honestly the same argument as she's making here. If you boil it down, it's the same exact argument.
You can't use the same arguments because that don't work against liberals.
No, of course not. Facts don't work. Anyway. So moving on, we get this line after the daughter asks why the mom should care about anyone else's pregnancy. And her mom goes, why do I care about anyone else, period? Why do you care about any human beings in this world if you don't know them? Why should I care? I don't know them, therefore they shouldn't exist to me. And I think this one's self-explanatory because we've been talking about it, the fact that humans have intrinsic value. Oh, okay. And that leads to this question from the daughter, which says, okay, if I got pregnant right now and I wanted to get an abortion, whose life do you value more? So I know the whole point of this article. I'm not missing it. But why does it have to be an either-or situation? Why does it have to be an either-or situation? Why can't the mother's life matter and the baby's life matter equally, simultaneously? The answer is, of course, for leftists that babies and pregnancies can get in the way of life and girl power, and we can't be stopped, and why are you trying to control my body? But, and also for you liberal men out there who push this just so that you don't have to have accountability for your actions, I'm looking at you too with this. I'm looking at you judgmentally for this. But this is why I agree that the feminist movement is one of the worst things in history to happen, because there's 60 million babies dead and counting. So, yeah, there you go. You agree with me, Marcus, or do you disagree that the feminist movement?
No. I mean, to some extent, I get, this world used to be messed up. Used to the white man had the power. If you weren't a white man, then, your life wasn't as important, for being honest. But the world's changed, and I think honestly, if you're a feminist now, you shouldn't be focused on the things they're focused on. You look at the petty things they're focused on, like the wage gap. They're focused. Oh, the wage gap. Number one, the wage gap isn't real. They work less hours. Look at the statistics, and it's just proved. But that doesn't matter. But if you really are a feminist, then you should be going to the third world countries where women are mistreated, and you
Yeah.
should be going to somewhere like Iraq and
Go to
Iran in the
Afghanistan
Middle
right
East
now.
where
See about and uncover your hair. See how long you live there.
over there, if a woman upsets a man, he can just say, he can just kind of like it was in the old days. Oh, not necessarily. Oh, she's a witch and he kill her, but he can make a claim against her that's completely false,
And
and
they'll stone
they
her.
kill her.
Yeah, the killer.
So I mean, if you really are a feminist movement, then why aren't you focused on the more important things? Even if there was a wage gap of however many cent it is to a dollar, is that really as important to somebody that gets beat in the Middle East or somebody that has literally no rights in the Middle East? No, I don't think it is. So I think in order to get women the right to vote and to get them to be equal to man, I get that. That's a good movement. I get that. I love it. But now that there's nothing stopping a woman from making the same, if not more, than a man, there's no legal
As long as
thing
and
that.
I'm cutting you short because we're going to go a long episode anyway, and I don't mean to do this, but I think I can sum up what you're saying. Is that they should be legal under the law, which which women have been for like the past how long now?
I don't. It's
But yeah, so women should be equal under the law, and in America they are. Um,
Now
so
if they can find us something where it's not, I help fight with you. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
but killing
But
60 million babies, I'm not on board for. Not on board for it. I will fight you.
no,
Okay, so moving on. Kathleen says this. I'm not saying that people don't exist. I'm saying that if a person is pregnant and they don't want to be, whatever is growing inside them, the fetus, they get to decide. They get to decide what it's worth because it's not a person yet. It is a person. The person who is pregnant, that whole person, they have a real life. They're alive. They're out in the world. They're impacting things. They have thoughts and feelings and are a whole person. If something only exists in my body, if something hasn't finished cooking yet, if it needs me to survive, it doesn't matter. Okay, few things. One, the baby is a whole person as well. Separate, completely separate. I'm not going over that again. DNA. Two, they are out in the world. They exist. And just because they're in the womb doesn't mean that their existence isn't a part of this world, even if you don't tell anybody about them. Three, if
really
something
quick.
hasn't finished cooking yet, that's still food in the oven. What are you going to do? Take it out and throw it into the trash? That defeats all the purpose of having it in there to begin with. Lastly, if it doesn't
Right.
matter if it needs you to survive, tell me. If the baby is right out of the womb, does it not need your breast milk? Does it not need its diaper change? This is a long list and the things that is dependent upon you for. Food, shelter, water, cleaning. They can't do these things themselves. You're still attached to them. Okay. Anything real quickly?
Yes, real quick. She said, you read that. She said that. What if I didn't want it in my body? Well, you should know going into sexual intercourse that a possible outcome is pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of sex is not to feel good. The reason that sex is out there is for procreation. That's
Well,
why
it also, I disagree with you that real quickly
I know
because, like, between married couples, where it should be, it also
That's true.
bonds them together, brings them closer together, and all that. But I get what you're saying.
But you should know going into sex that there's a chance that you get pregnant.
Absolutely.
And if you are not ready to have a baby and you're not ready to take that risk, then either A, don't be doing it, or B, take every measure you can to stop it. So you need to know your responsibility. It's like, I know driving a car that I may get in a wreck and I may die, but you know what? I still get on that car and I still drive to work and I still
Exactly.
drive wherever I need to go. So you should know the consequences of your actions. So if you're going to have sex, you may very well have a baby. End of story.
So you're 100% right. I want to move on because she makes an argument here that I absolutely hate, and I'll explain why in a second. So she says, okay, I have a metaphor for you. This is Kathleen, the daughter. If I, in order to survive, need constant blood transfusions, and there's one person in the world who can give me these blood transfusions, is that person required to give them to me? Then she says, no, it's not my metaphor. I can't remember where I found it. So I hate this argument. That's called the famous violinist argument. I can't remember the name of the philosopher who came up with it. But it's basically saying if a famous violinist got extremely hurt and had to be hooked up to you for an IV for 9 months, do you not get to pull the IV out? Okay, so I hate this argument with a passion. First of all, let's get this landmine out of the way. By an NIH study, 5% of abortions come from rape. That's from a 1996 study that the National Institute of Health put out. That is at the tail end of a crime wave, so it stands to reason that that number is lower now than it was in 1996. So, we'll set aside that conjecture, though, and say that leaves 95% of abortions coming from a sexual relationship that had two willing participants. So yes, you are stuck together with your baby. You may not be stuck. It might not be morally wrong to pull that IV out if it's someone you don't know. There's cases to be made, but it's certainly morally corrupt to do it if it's your own child. It's by the consequences of your own reaction, and the mother's response is brilliant. She says, they're not inside of you. They're not a part of you. You didn't make them. You didn't make them. You didn't make the problem, as it were. It's like when you were a baby, you are responsible. When you have a baby, you are responsible. If someone just needs blood transfusions, that doesn't make you responsible. If you put the baby inside of you, you are responsible. Whatever your choice, you are responsible. Ugh. Okay, we got it. She's responsible. So my train of thought just went poof out of my head. You have anything to say to that while I recollect my thoughts?
Yeah, I think that as far as that argument goes, as far as the baby goes, you had to make that baby. You know, you knew what you were doing. You knew it was a chance, but you didn't make that violinist. You know, that didn't form in your body. You know, you might even know that violinist ever. Mm-hmm. But a baby, you knew what you're doing whenever you started.
Absolutely, 100%. So the daughter has. Go ahead. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So the daughter has no comeback. She actually said F that and pivots to the fact that sometimes there are accidents, which, yeah, there are, but there are still consequences of your decisions. And now, which brings us to one thing, Marcus, I'm going to need you to keep your mouth shut here because only one of us needs to step on this landmine, okay? My face is on camera, so I'll be the one to do it. That brings up rape. All I'm going to say is that rape is a terrible thing. No one should have to go through it. And a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this. But even if that's where the baby came from, that is still a living being, living human inside of you. I'm not saying that I'm not very conscious of what happened to bring that, but at the same time, that is a baby inside of you. All right. And that is the end of it for that segment. That one was a long one. That was a good one, Marcus. I think that's the best one we've done yet together.
I think it was a good one.
I think
it could really.
So, like I said, I'm going to post this entire, the link to this entire article on the Cancel Misfits Facebook page. Be careful when you go on; you only get one free article from this place before you have to buy in. I would not recommend it because one of the other top links from that site are the sex parties are really great right about now, or something stupid like that. So maybe don't support them.